program and modify and redistribute the modified code of the program. So all of these mandates the access to the source code of the program. And according to them, these software will be able to respect the users, their rights, their privacy, and only these software give the users the essential freedom that is needed while using software. Besides these ethical aspects of free software compared to proprietary software, which may, without your permission, may track you, may record your activities and sell them for advertisement and other purposes. Besides these ethical reasons, FOSS also have huge economical and social aspects. FOSS enables collaboration across continents and across time scale. The biggest example of this is the Linux kernel, which is one of the most successful free and open source software and is the most used operating system. Some of you may already know, some of you might think that Windows is more successful, but actually Linux is the most widely used operating system in the networks world, in the server world, and almost everywhere except desktop. And even on desktop, Linux is catching up. And in addition to this, many companies these days are embracing free and open source software due to commercial and other reasons. Also, free and open source software are uplifting the global community by enabling people like doesn't have who can't afford to buy, for example, Windows operating system or like to buy a Photoshop, they can choose free alternatives like Linux OS or GIMP or Inkscape and other alternative software which are developed by volunteers all over the world. Generally, force have huge importance in modern society. Force also shape the general attitude of software engineering community. Our community, unlike other engineering branches, are much more open, much more collaborative, much more sharing, and much more helpful for beginners to learn. For example, if you are a beginner, you can easily find tutorials, learning resources, free beginners things like many software have their you can find many libraries which are free to use and which have excellent documentation also for learning software engineering in almost every aspect of software engineering. This general attitude of sharing is very valuable and is fostered by the original pioneers of free and open source software. Free and open source software is a really good avenue for college students to improve their skills. Started just എവിടുന്നാ പോയത് എവിടെ ബാക്കപ്പ് ചെയ്യണ്ടേ
ഒരു 30 seconds.
Okay. So as you were talking, FOSS is extremely important and extremely valuable for college students, especially because of the avenues you will get while collaborating with maintainers and owners of free open source software, various software that are available for as open source. While you're contributing to those software, the people who wrote them, people who are maintaining them, will be very helpful to let you understand their code and let you change, modify, and that experience is much more valuable than the formal education you are getting in your college. In addition to that, if you have any contribution that you can list in your resume, that is like a sure way to get a very good high profile job in one of the best companies that you may be dreaming of. Another thing is that companies like Google are conducting events like Google Summer of Code. Google Summer of Code is a sponsored event. Google will sponsor people who want to contribute, who want to spend their entire summer contributing to open source software. There you have to submit interesting ideas to Google Abstract, and Google will select a few of them. And as the implementation progresses, you will be getting a good sum of money, which I'm not sure how much. But uh, in addition to the monetary aspect, if you have participated in GSO, that
നിക്കേ
is a
ഞാൻ
huge
ഗൂഗിൾ
boost to
മീറ്റ്
your
ലിങ്ക്
resume.
ഉണ്ടായിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. എടാ ഹോസ്റ്റ്
ഓക്കെ.
ഞാനാവണോ
So,
അതോ
as a college student, FOSS
നീ
is
ആയിരിക്കും.
one of the best way to showcase how good you are with coding. Now, in
ഇല്ലല്ല,
the general aspect,
സെറ്റാണ്.
another question that comes up with discussions with FOSS, discussion regarding FOSS, is commonly the sustainability of FOSS. We have seen that FOSS requires four freedoms to
സാറിനോട്
be
എത്ര
given
മണിയാ
to the
പറയണ്ടേ?
users: run the program, study the
അത്
program,
അഫീദ് വന്നിട്ട് സ്ട്രീം
redistribute the
വേൾഡിലേക്ക്
program.
സ്ട്രീം
And
ചെയ്തു
this
പോയി.
point is a bit more
അഫീദ് എണീച്ച്
important
എന്നിട്ട്
because
അവൻ നേരെ
this
സ്ട്രീമിലേക്ക്
might mean that you won't be able to successfully
അല്ല സീനില്ല,
sell the
കുഴപ്പമില്ല.
program,
എന്നിട്ട് അവൻ
or
പറയും
it may
പല്ല്
seem
വെച്ചിട്ട്
so
വരാം.
in the first look. So how do people writing free and open source software make money? That is a question that comes up again and again. And the answer is that this question is not
ASAP.
completely solved, but people have put forward creative ways to solve this. I'll give you a few examples of how successful companies all around the world are solving this problem, and I'll also hint at what has gone wrong and how you might be able to think some other ways and improve it.
ശരിയാ.
The most prominent
ഞാൻ മറന്നു.
example in
അല്ലടാ,
for
നിങ്ങൾ ആ
software
ഗ്രൂപ്പിൽ ഇതുവരെ
is
ആഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല.
Red Hat Linux. They sell
എ-
maintenance services
സെക്കൻഡ് ഇയേഴ്സ് ഉള്ള ഗ്രൂപ്പേ ഉള്ളൂ.
to maintain
അല്ല, തേർഡ് ഇയേഴ്സ് ഉള്ള ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഇതാണ്,
installations
സി
of
എസ് സി ആണ്. അത്
Linux
ഞാൻ
for
അതിലിടാം. മറ്റേത് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങൾ ആഡ് ചെയ്യാം. എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്?
enterprise
ഇവന്റ് സ്റ്റാർട്ടഡ്
companies, schools, large organizations,
ആ
etc.
മൊത്തം ഒരു
They
മെസ്സേജ് ആയിട്ട്
sell
എനിക്ക് വാട്സ്ആപ്പ്
their
ചെയ്യാം.
service that
നെറ്റ്
they will maintain and
ലാപ്പിലുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ
they
എനിക്ക്
will
ഓരോ
fix
മെസ്സേജ്
all the security issues. Their version of Linux is one of the most secure
എന്നെ
version of
സാജി
Linux
വാട്സ്ആപ്പ്
available.
ആണോ?
And Red Hat is a commercial software, but CentOS, which is basically a copy of Red Hat without the
അല്ലല്ല,
support
കുഴപ്പമില്ല,
and without the technical support,
എടാ ഡിസ്കോഡ് ഓഡിയോ
is completely free. It is free and open source because basically the Linux kernel demands that Linux kernel is licensed as GPL. That means that anyone who modifies Linux kernel must distribute their modifications and source code of their modification. So Red Hat must distribute their security enhancement back to the original Linux kernel, but they are also selling the technical services like maintenance and so installation, those kind of stuff. So Red Hat is a very good example. There are some lesser known but very successful companies in the entire industry. Another company is called No Red Ink. They develop educational software to uh, to bring people online through and to improve the experience of the students in online learning. This they were doing work way before COVID has struck, and a language called Elm is a free and open source language. They have recently hired the creator of that language, who originally created that language as a hobby, and they are paying him to create and maintain that language. The benefit for them is that they sell products which use that language to build. They write their software in Elm language, and they anyway need to develop the language. So, as a service to the community, they are also open sourcing their work on the language. But this is not their original work. I mean, this is not their core product. Their core product is no reading software, which allows people to learn. But they are helping the development of for software, which is Helm language. Another a very common pattern seen across companies is that, for example, Tailwind CSS, which you might have seen, and a company called Serocle, what they do is they develop free and open source software libraries basically, and they sell consultancy. They will help with using that library so that when you are trying to implement a important commercial software and you need technical support regarding how to use this library, and you might need modifications to this library, so that you can hire the original people who wrote that library, and they will they will give you exact guidance on how to use that library and maybe add modification if needed. So this is a common pattern. And another common pattern is big corporations like Google, Facebook, they open source the tools they have developed in-house, so that they have a policy to give back to the community something, even though most of their products are exactly opposite to the principle of what FOSS stands for. And some of them are even actually considered evil, but still they open source some of their tools they have developed in-house to help the community. For example, React is developed by Facebook, which is being used widely across the industry to develop web applications. And Chromium was developed by Google, but they have open sourced the code. So these are another example. The problem is that the question of sustainability is not completely solved. If you have a dream of developing a free open source software and earn a living and do only develop open source software yourself and earn a living through that, this dream is currently not, there is not a straightforward path that you can follow to achieve this dream. Also, companies like Mozilla are recently under scrutiny because Firefox is championed as the best browser that you can have, that are not owned by people, that are not owned by companies who are tracking you and selling your data for advertisement. But still, Mozilla, even though their goal is privacy, primary income of Mozilla is commission from Google to redirect you to Google search. So Mozilla Google pays Mozilla to put Google search as the default search bar in Mozilla. So Mozilla is under a huge existential question that why do they actually exist? Because their goal is privacy, but they're completely defeating that goal by making Google their default search partner. So the question of sustainability comes over and over. So as the next generation, it is our task, it is our job to think about creative ways so that we can create, so people coming forward, anyone who has the dream to develop free and open source software must be able to do that while also earning an income based on that one. Otherwise, the development of free and open source software will be at the mercy of large corporations who sometimes, for example, Google has a policy that every employee may spend, I think, 20% of their time on a few open source software. And the catch is that Google will own all the rights to that open source software, even though the software is released as open source. Google is the owner of that open source.
We had 2 minutes left, right?
Okay. So as the next generation, it is our responsibility to think about creative ways to solve the sustainability problem. So that's all about my introduction to open source. We have Shirazuddin sir, who will be talking about the importance of force after this session. So I would like to welcome all of you to this open source celebration, to this event. We will be helping you, we will be mentoring you to onboard. If you does not have any experience with force, we have a team of volunteers who will be helping me get on board to understand the process of how to contribute to open source software. We have a Git workshop schedule, which is one of the most widely used tool for collaboration in the industry. We'll be teaching you that if you don't know that, and for throughout the day, we will be available to help you in if you need any help, any mentorship. And in addition to that, if you would like to uh, share your free open source software you have developed, please do so. You are welcome to do that. We'll post links in the Discord channel during the time slots we have planned. So let me wind up my session. I would like to welcome all of you to the event. I would like to welcome Shiraz sir to the event. And thank you, Shiraz sir, for coming to our event and giving a talk on FOSS. I welcome Shiraz sir to I welcome Shiraz sir for the introduction to FOSS. Welcome all and thank you.
Yeah, so I have started sharing my screen. Yeah, so should I start presentation?
Yeah, yes, sir, you can. We can see your screen.
Okay, yeah, so I will start presentation. Yeah, hello all. Yeah, so yeah, thanks to FOSSCell for inviting me for this program. Yeah, so before I start, I would like to say that I am not a FOSS developer or a FOSS evangelist. I am a committed FOSS user. In fact, all my life I have used Linux and nothing else. It just so happened that I have used Linux in my life. There was no philosophical reason behind it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, today we will have a small brief talk on what is open source and why. And in fact, it was a great learning exercise for me also. So I had to spend a bit of time to find out what is open source, what is FOSS, what is free software, and so on. So let us start. Okay. So before I start, I would like to say that there is nothing original in my presentation. I have got it from different places, mostly Wikipedia. Okay. And I have tried to put this thing into a coherent form, hopefully, and it will make sense to you. Okay, so what is FOSS? So FOSS is free and open source software that can be classified as both free software and open source software. So people tend to differentiate between free software and open source software because it's like CPI and CPM. So CPI was the original party, and then the CPM went the other way, and CPM turned out to be more successful also. So it's just like that. The original thing is free software, and then in 1998 they broke away and started something called open source software. But they are both one and the same. There is no difference between free software and open source software. There may be minor differences in licensing. Okay. Yeah, so what does FOSS mean? FOSS means that anyone is freely licensed to use, copy, study, and change the software in any way. And the source code is openly shared. This is very important. And that is the idea of openly shared source code is part of the name of the open source software. Okay, so once the source code is openly shared, the people are encouraged to voluntarily improve the design and the implementation of the software. Okay, now FOSS is entirely different from proprietary software, the kind of thing which you get from Microsoft, which people usually pirate and use, where the software is under restrictive copyright licensing, and the source code is usually hidden from the users. Now, it's a point to observe is that free FOSS does not mean free in terms of uh, you can get it without spending any money, like Chrome, not Chrome, Google. So we use Google search engine all the time. It's freely available. You don't need to spend money to buy it, install it in your computer. You don't need money to search. But the Google search engine, the software of the Google search engine is not FOSS, because the source code of Google's search engine is not openly shared, openly available. You cannot use it, you cannot change it, you cannot use it to build your own software system, your own search engine. This is very important. So even though you don't need to buy Google search engine, You don't need to spend money to use Google search engine. It is not FOSS. So FOSS has been there for a long time, and people say that the success of FOSS is actually built upon the success of Linux. So Linux was one of the first FOSS software or FOSS product, and now we have you cannot say Linux was the first. BSD was the first, but Linux was the most successful first. Okay, so now they are ubiquitous, and now they are even available on your smartphones, the Android version. Okay, so free software licenses and open source licenses are used by many software packages, and the important thing is that the free software movement and the open source software movement, they are online social movements which have made it their goal to make FOSS widespread. Yeah, so this is a screenshot of some free and open source software. You can see for yourself here. So you have Mozilla, so the browser Mozilla, okay, which is free, and this whole thing is running on Linux Mint, which is again FOSS. You have calculator program, you have a built-in calendar, you have Vim, you have Gimp, and you have VLC media player. So these are all FOSS. Okay, this picture I have got from Wikipedia. So yeah, as I said in the beginning, there are two versions: free software and open source software. And so when something is called to be FOSS, software is a free software and open source software if it satisfies 4 requirements. They are called the 4 essential freedoms. So the first freedom is the freedom to run the program as you wish for any purpose. The second freedom is the freedom to study how the program works and change it so it does your computing as you wish. So you should be able to customize your software freely. The freedom to redistribute copies so you can help your neighbor. Okay, this happens with Windows all the time, but that is illegal. Okay, the freedom to distribute copies of your modified versions to others. Okay, now as you can see, that freedom 1 and freedom 3 needs the source code to be openly shared. Okay, so if a software or a software license satisfies these 4 requirements, then the software is called free software or open source software. So as I said, free software, there are minor philosophical differences between free software and open source software. And as Richard Stallman, the grand old man of free software movement, said, the main difference between free software and open software is that open source software is a development methodology, and free software is a social movement. Okay, now, but it does not matter because nearly all free software is open source and nearly all open source software is free. Regarding the prehistory of the FOSS, as I mentioned, Richard Stallman, the grand old man, he founded the free software movement in 1983. So you see, this idea of free and open source software is very old. And, it was coined in 1983, and Richard Stallman launched the GNU project and later established the free software movement in 1985. Now, the point is that what does the word free mean? The free means freedom and not free as in zero price. As I just mentioned, Google search engine is free, but it is not free as in freedom. It is free as in zero price. Okay. Now, the label open source was created and adopted by a group of people in the free software movement. In 1998, they broke away and started an organization called Open Source Initiative. Okay, and then they have developed it separately. Now, now the FOSS has been recently successful a lot. In fact, so successful that NASA was forced to accept it, and they the computers which they are using in their International Space Station, they transitioned from Windows to Linux in 2013. Okay, and this statement, the official statement, comes from a website called Computer Weekly. You can open it and see it for yourself. So I will open this link and show it to you. Sorry, it's not opening, but yeah. Anyway, we will move ahead. Now, there are many famous FOSS products, and a few prime examples are Apache HTTP server, the e-commerce platform OS Commerce, and the most famous ones are Mozilla Firefox and the Chromium. Now, Chromium is FOSS. It's the base, the code base of Google Chrome comes from Chromium. And in fact, there are multiple other browsers which use Chromium. In fact, recently, Microsoft has built a browser Edge, a browser called Edge, which is actually built over Chromium. Then we have the full Office suite of LibreOffice. And the most successful open source product is GNU Linux and Android. Now, open source software projects are built. We will interchangeably use FOSS and open source. They are one and the same. So, open source software projects are built and maintained by a network of volunteer programmers, and they are widely used in free as well as commercial products. So, it's not that you can have your own FOSS product and you can sell it. There is no bar in commercializing your FOSS product. Only thing is that you should allow it to be openly shared. People should be allowed to modify it and share it. Now, FOSS has, as I said, FOSS has become so much ubiquitous that even Microsoft was forced to adopt FOSS. So in 2014, Satya Nadella, when he became the CEO of Microsoft, he began to adopt open source into his core business. And in 2018, Microsoft acquired GitHub, and at that time, Nadella said that Microsoft is in the business of open source. So it's like if you cannot win against them, then you will join them. So Nadella, Microsoft could not fight and win against FOSS, so they have joined FOSS. So in 2014, Microsoft opened the source of its .NET framework. In 2016, Microsoft introduced Windows subsystem for Linux, which lets Linux application run on the Windows operating system, which was not true earlier. And it was this happened by making Windows cross-platform. Okay, and not only that, Microsoft, who is known for being stingy, who are known to be stingy, they started investing in Linux server technology. In fact, they funded the Linux Foundation, and now they have got a seat on its board of directors. In fact, the open source initiative, which was for a target of Microsoft earlier, used the occasion of Microsoft's sponsorship in 2017 as a milestone for open source software's widespread acceptance. Microsoft has developed Linux-based operating system for use with its Azure cloud services. Okay, and as I just mentioned, that Microsoft has transitioned its Edge browser to use the open source Chromium in 2019. Yeah, so there are many reasons why FOSS is not popular. And even though some of the most famous and ubiquitous pieces of software, such as Linux and Mozilla Firefox, are very widespread, people are still hesitant to use less known other pieces of open source software. Okay, now the possible reasons of FOSS not being popular could be that FOSS needs too much support. FOSS sometimes may infringe on intellectual property. Now, this is not much needed. This issue is not much problematic for as student communities, but it is important for companies, corporates, that they don't use software which infringes on IPR. Yeah, but there are two myths about FOSS, and that is that FOSS is not reliable and FOSS is not secure, which is not true. Okay, yeah, but it is true that FOSS needs much support, because usually FOSS is used when you customize your software. So you get the software and then you customize it as per your need, and for that you need to have some in-house. This is about companies. You need to have in-house support for that, and for that you need to hire engineers and others. But that is in the long term, that is helpful, that is beneficial for you, because FOSS is free, so you can mostly free, so you can save a lot of money, and in particular you can save a lot of money on licensing fees, so which you can use to hire people to customize and support your FOSS software which you are using, so which companies are using. But this is not a problem for student communities, because they can build on their own and they can manage it on their own. Now, sometimes it is true that FOSS infringes on intellectual property because the rules that govern IP for FOSS are very complex. So, but there are these issues can be surpassed by purchasing indemnification insurance through a third-party vendor like OpenLogic. In either situation, yeah, this is a costly exercise for corporates, but not much of a problem for the student community. The myth that FOSS is not reliable is really has gained currency for a long time, but it is not real, and the opposite is true. In fact, if bugs occur in FOSS, then it can be quickly fixed thanks to the army of people working on FOSS software, because there is a huge community, okay, which can service. You can always get help from them and fix your bug. Now, which is not true for proprietary software company, because users need to wait for the release of the next software update to fix a bug. FOSS is not secure, so many people think that FOSS, because the open source code of FOSS software is openly shared, openly available, then any hacker can use it to attack your software. That is actually partially true, but it is as bad, in fact, further worse for proprietary software. As you can see, there Microsoft is always attacked, beset by different kind of virus. Even though their source code is not open source, but still it's not secure. Okay, so there are risks, but it is as secure or as insecure as proprietary software. Now, why FOSS? Now, the concerns are clearly not unfounded, but they can be mitigated with the understanding of the software in question. But companies can save a lot of money while also getting a product that is better suited to them. Once you learn how to use open source software and how to mitigate some of the risks associated with it, you can reap great benefits. So this is something which is for the users, for the companies, for the corporates. Yeah, so this is something I got a list of why use FOSS from a website called Softwarefreedomday.org. list of things. You can read it for yourself. Yeah, I'm not going to read it. Yeah, so yeah, at the end, I would talk about my two favorite FOSS products, and surprisingly, so one. So this is the first one. This is called Z3. It's a theorem prover, which is published by, which is developed and published by Microsoft, and it is freely available. This is the GitHub repository page of Z3 theorem prover. Okay, and another of my favorite FOSS product is this thing. This is called Awk. This is they call it as a proof management system. Now this is also freely available on Awk, and this comes from academic community. So Awk comes from academic community. So INRIA France people have built it. You can see awk.inri.fr. But Z3 is provided by Microsoft, and there is a zoo of Microsoft products which you can access here. And it is actually mainly for software engineering. In fact, mainly for software verification. So you can see that this is, and most of it is FOSS. So you have Z3 here, which is an efficient theorem prover, and through this website you get tutorials for that, free tutorials over these. So I can go here. You have, so you can write a code. You can write code in Z3 to do your work. Okay, so I don't want to go into what Z3 is and how Z3 can be used. But the point to note is that Z3 is FOSS, and it is developed and published by Microsoft. So Microsoft has recently, as I said, it's become one of the proponents of FOSS. Yeah, so that much I wanted to talk. There is nothing more to say. This is my experience of free and open source software, and as I said in the beginning, I am just a user. I am just a humble user, and I have been using Linux and related products, related software, related tools for a long time, but I have not been a developer. But I hope you people will turn out to be FOSS developers, and you will contribute to the community, because the future of software looks to be FOSS. As you can see, Microsoft has turned to FOSS, and Microsoft has turned big time to FOSS. Okay. So it seems the future of software is in FOSS. Everything has to be done in a collaborated, free manner where everyone can contribute. And this will already the academic community has always made its product open source. So where they can people can come and collaborate. But the corporates were not into it till recently. But the business model will develop soon, and because FOSS is not against commercialization of software products, so they can commercialize it, but they should keep it free and open source. That is the point. So as long as they keep it free and open source, there is not a problem, and they can make money out of that, but not some vulgar money, in some decent way. Okay. So yeah, so this is an opportunity FOSS is an opportunity for a student community to learn and contribute. in a big way. They haven't always been doing it, but now through you have the one of the greatest platform of FOSS in terms of GitHub. So through GitHub, people can collaborate, people can contribute, and learn. Okay, so yeah, so this is my experience. These are my thoughts on Hawk, and that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Thank you, Sherazuddin sir, for your wonderful presentation on this topic. We are lucky to have you here. Our event targets blooming developers from our own college and promotes FOSS in partnership with Hacktoberfest. From your talk, I see that you are the faculty here in NITC I have known who is most committed to FOSS and knowledgeable about it. We are very grateful to have you here and deliver this genuine and wonderful talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Uh, Hello everyone. The event is running right now. So if you guys are online, kindly join the Discord voice channels so we can have discussions about it. And there will be a workshop at 2 p.m. and until that time you can search for repositories and all, and there's also the installation of Git. So if you guys can install Git in your systems, and if you have any doubt, please post it in the main channel, and the resources for how to install Git is posted in the resources channel in the Discord. So if any of you guys are in doubt for how to join the Discord, we will post the it will be posted in the site. It is there in the site, so you can join from there. So hope you have a good time and join the voice challenge. So let's have a good discussion and all. ഞാൻ ഒറ്റയ്ക്കാക്കി കിട്ടുമെന്ന്.
പിന്നെ ഇല്ല.
VC6 നമുക്ക് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ.
ഇല്ല ഇല്ല.
പോടാ റൈറ്റ് സൈഡിലേക്ക് നോക്കിയത് നീ. അല്ല അത് ഞാൻ വേറെ ചാനലിലേക്ക് കേട്ടാ. സോറി.
ആ എടാ പേടിയാണ്. ഇതേതാ നിക്ക്.
എന്താ പേടിയാണ്?
എടാ നമ്മുടെ വോയിസ് മന്നുണ്ട്.
ആ യെസ് വനുണ്ട്.
എടാ സീനാക്കരുത്. എടാ എന്റെ സൗണ്ട് കേൾക്കും. ഇപ്പൊ പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല.
വേറെ സീനാണ്. അടുത്ത പരിപാടി തുടങ്ങി.
Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you are? You gotta know I'm all yours. But when I say what's that about, you start slurring your words. Tell me why you have to seem so distant when I'm holding you. Your fingertips are drifting away, and I fucking love how it hurts. Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Why do I, baby, why do I? Why do I, baby, why do I? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Wishing that I could run away with you. Imprison my fear, just pull me away, pull me away. Secret fantasies of me. Will they ever see the light of day, light of day? I don't know where Poison my fear, just pull me away, pull me away. Secret fantasies of me. Will they ever see the light of day, light of day? tragedy, I'm a beautiful disaster. A reckoning, you wonder how I got this way. You think I'm someone to be saved, someone to clean up and tame. Oh, some things never change, never change. Oh. You think I would look pretty on your arm once you cover up my bruises and battle scars, but it always ends the same. Can't bear the things I've had to face. Got you crying on your knees in pain. Oh, some things never change, never change. Oh, you break your back to make me feel again. Suffocate to make me breathe again. Lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption never came. I stopped asking for forgiveness, cause you should know only fools tread with the angels. Fear to go, but you keep trying to get too close. Save myself by turning into stone. So save your judgment cause you just don't know. But some things never change, never change. Oh, they say I should feel guilty and change my ways, leaving crumpled bodies in my wake. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. But they're so delicate and so mundane, and they keep coming like a moth to a flame. Oh, some things never change, never change. You break your back to make me feel again. Suffocate to make me breathe again. Lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption never came. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Clear sky. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Clear sky. Here we are, a million stars floating over our heads. Beating hearts, falling apart, staying up to forget. But baby, we'll fall. We all go dancing down, and paradise is found. We're shaking up the ground, 'cause there ain't no stopping love. Say there ain't no stopping love. No, there ain't no stopping love. There ain't no stopping we could be flying free, leave our worries below. Safe and sound, no one around. Say the word and we'll go. But baby, we'll fall. We all go dancing down, and paradise is found. We're shaking up the ground, 'cause there ain't no stopping love. Say there ain't no stopping love. No, there ain't no stopping love.